Welcome to this episode of Trauma Rockstars. I'm so excited to have Lindsie on. We are both Florida girls freezing our little butts off down here, but it's all good. The sun's still shining. But Lindsie is a nurse. I mean, she's been a nurse for years, but she's also an advocate and she's a health coach and she has a podcast and she really concentrates on PCOS. And we're going to dive in about that because it's a real passionate passion of hers. Lindsie, thank you so much for being on this episode. I'm so excited. And we really connected when we chatted last time. And I love your healthy ever after. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about healthy beyond the diagnosis. We're going to talk about possibly your events. Welcome, welcome. And tell us a little bit how, I know your story, but how you kind of got into this space from your nursing career.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. So, yeah, as Tracy mentioned, I haven't practiced at the bedside for like almost 8 years now, which is crazy to say, but still always a nurse, of course. And I mean, I immediately went from high school, into nursing school, my nursing career. And even in high school, I became a CNA, a nursing assistant as well. So I was like almost 20 years, in the
Yeah.
healthcare space. Like I
Mhm.
knew that's what I wanted to do. And my passion was helping people
Mhm.
feel better, helping people heal. In between nursing and health coaching, owned a gym with my husband, and I got to fulfill that passion of helping people through fitness because I thought, as long as you were working out, you were fine. Which, yeah,
That's
it
just a
works to some
small
extent.
fraction of
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
Exactly. But it was, I think everything has led me down this path. There was a reason, that I had the gym. Of course, we helped many people, but I had my own wake up call during that time as well, health wise, and got diagnosed with a couple autoimmune conditions. Totally had to just change my thinking, and that's when I realized how much nutrition plays a role.
Mhm.
But then even with the gym, I always said there was something missing. I was like, why can some people work out a couple times a week? I don't know, maybe they do, don't change anything at home, but they get amazing results. And why can some people work so hard and not see any results? And why can some people get results but not keep the results? And so, keeping that in mind, I moved into my coaching practice, focusing a lot on nutrition. But then a couple of years ago, I was introduced to someone that opened my eyes to that missing piece, the
Mhm.
mindset piece. And so, yeah, I mean, I named my business Healthy Ever After
Mhm.
because that's what I want. Like, I don't want to work with people forever. I want to teach them what they need so they can continue living an amazing lifestyle and feel better and meet their whether that means weight loss. Hopefully, it's beyond weight loss because I think that's what a lot of my clients discover. But um, just feeling amazing, improvements in their even relationships. It kind of, trickles down to
Yeah,
all
it
that.
does. It affects everything. It's a
Mhm.
full circle.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I get to pair that, my background in nursing with what I'm doing now and along with my own lived experience,
Yeah.
through it all.
I think, I was thinking after when we talked last time too, when and you touched on that a little bit with the fitness and the nutrition and things like that. Like now, middle age, let's just put it out there. We're middle age, and I'm very grateful to be the age I am and healthy. But now when I work out, my goal when I work out is to not get osteoporosis and to not end up in a nursing home. That's it. I want strong bones and muscles, and that's like my goal. And that's like so important to me, and not
Yeah,
have
yeah,
fractures and not get fractures,
exactly.
which
Yeah,
that's
to
where
me
the
it's
osteoporosis and comes in.
Yeah, it's quality over quantity for
Yeah.
me. Like, mentally, physically, all the things. Like, I don't
Mhm.
care about living to 100. I just want a good quality of life. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have kids myself, but I have two little nieces that I love running around
Mhm.
with. And,
Same.
for my age, I feel like I can still do so much with them. We go on 20-mile bike rides, and I'm
Yeah.
doing cartwheels in the living room with them,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know? So
I'm the
yeah,
same way with the same
yeah,
thing. I don't have kids. I have my fur babies, but even with my niece and nephew, like we have dance parties and we're
yeah,
running around like maniacs. And I want to stay like that. I want to stay
exactly.
strong, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, to me, the nutrition piece is for the physical and the workout piece is more mental, I think, for
Mhm,
me,
mhm.
yes, same exact reasons as well, because it does, especially like strength training and stuff, which is a lot more what I
Yeah.
do. I also love running, but it's also a good outlet for me to just kind of like, especially, like, if I'm running, I kinda have my own it's a good brainstorming time, and I can just
Yeah.
think, and yeah, or sometimes I put on a podcast and just dive into that, but I think it keeps me sane, the working out piece, where I knew nutrition is more for fueling my body and supporting all that too.
Well, and getting I think we could touch on this a little bit because everybody knows you need to go to the gym and work out and lift weights, but the nutrition piece, it's what you're eating. Are you getting the right protein? Are you getting the right amount, of calcium, things like that. So I would love to get your expertise on that as we dive a little bit more deeper into it because I know that's what you do every day is you coach people
Yeah.
on this. And, I have something written on here from when I made a little note when we were talking last time, and I highlighted it with a question mark, and I can't remember what we were talking about, but German new medicine.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I touch a little bit on it in my book. But basically, it's kind of a theory around traumas, past traumas, and how those can manifest as physical ailments or physical symptoms.
Mhm.
So, with PCOS, for example, a lot of times it's tied to a loss. And then I think, especially us as females, we try to replace that loss. And
Mhm.
what's our ovaries are tied
Mhm.
to our female reproductive system, and so it's like your body forms those cysts almost to try to replace that loss. And so, whatever it might be and whatever diagnosis, it might be, not necessarily PCOS, but I've even gone down rabbit holes sometimes and just like I'll Google German new medicine and, this.
Whatever.
Yeah. And then it kind of gives you there's some obviously like more in-depth pieces on the parts of the brain and the side and
Mhm.
like what, that type of thing that can play a factor in things too. But that's kind of the big overall view of that. And me touching on it in the book is just to open people's eyes to the fact that there might be something
Else.
deeper here. Yeah. Yeah. That could be causing some physical symptoms and things that
Mhm.
might need to be processed. I'm part of a couple PCOS Facebook groups, and I had posted about this a while back just to kind of see, what the consensus was and see how many people were saying, yeah, like I had a loss and I got diagnosed. Because one of my first clients, I was kind of just learning about German new medicine, and I didn't know that PCOS was oftentimes tied to a loss, but she lost her grandmother. And then she ended up starting to have issues. And
So, okay, wait a minute. So for those okay, so you're blowing my mind a little bit here. Okay, so for anybody listening that doesn't know, PCOS is
oh,
polycystic
yes.
ovarian syndrome.
Yes.
And I know what it is because I work in healthcare, but a lot of and I know what it is, but I don't know what it is. And how you're tying this to trauma is fascinating because,
Mhm.
your trauma shows up in your body. You got to listen to it. So explain to everybody like the meat and potatoes of PCOS and how you really got into this specialty and are so passionate about it now.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, like Tracy said, polycystic ovary syndrome, there's kind of like three, well, I should say two of the three criteria. One is cysts on the ovaries. The other one is high androgen levels, which are the male hormones. And then the other one is irregular cycles, or basically less, like 8 or less a year,
Is the
having this
male, what did you say that middle one was?
high androgen levels, they're male hormones, like the testosterone
That are in
especially,
women. Okay.
which we
Okay.
we do, we have testosterone, but it's usually
I
at a lower
take it
level, right?
actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, especially, yeah, as we age, like
Yeah.
sometimes yeah, but it shouldn't be at a higher level, and so that
Okay.
can manifest, yes, the cysts on the ovaries, acne, facial hair, especially like a lot of the male hair patterns that could manifest in a woman with
Right.
PCOS, weight gain, especially around the abdomen, and
Mm.
also feeling like you've tried anything and everything to get rid of it and it won't budge.
That's
That can
your,
be
visceral
visceral. Well,
visceral
yeah,
fat,
yeah,
kind
visceral
of?
fat. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But for me, so no, I was not diagnosed. Do I think that at some point I might have been headed down that path? Yeah, because I was not listening to my body for years and years.
No, I know, because we didn't know.
But for me, I don't I felt really called to that community because for one, my nursing career. Now I was in the ER, so I would see a lot of women come in with like a flare up basically where they think maybe a cyst
Mhm.
burst, something going on, history of it. And you would see what they were dealing with, a lot
Yeah.
of the times, those symptoms, the body image
Oh, it's
issues that would go along
debilitating.
with it.
Mm.
Yeah. And the doctors, I feel like, just didn't know what to do with that. From an ER standpoint, we make sure there's nothing life threatening happening. I get that. But even then, I feel like they just kind of, it's like PCOS, whatever. But also, as you do the research, I think even in the doctor's office, I think there's so many of these women that just don't feel heard. They do get dismissed a lot. Well, your labs are normal, but they're probably not checking all the right labs. Um,
Their doctors are gaslighting them.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I should back up too, because with those three criteria that I mentioned, like I said, you only need two of the three. Now, before it used to be that you had to have the cyst on your ovaries. You technically don't even need the cyst on your ovaries anymore. You could have the other two and not have cysts
Mhm.
and still be diagnosed.
Mhm.
So a lot of times it can be tied to insulin resistance as well. So yeah, so like I said, I think, the more kind of you'll learn about it, you also
Mhm.
learn that I think traditional medicine does not always know what to do except for prescribe. They prescribe, but then a lot of these women that still continue to deal with the same symptoms and then the side effects from the medication. And it's great, like that's fine if that's what you're going to do, but then there also has to be some work, and whether that's the inner work, the nutrition side, moving your body more, all of it, you know,
Mhm.
at some point you have to fix it, at the root. And for
Mhm.
me, I think I just want these women to know that they don't have to live with this diagnosis their entire lives. Like there's so much more they can be doing. And that's where kind of where my book came from,
Yeah.
beyond the diagnosis, that healing can look different for everybody. But just because they're given this diagnosis doesn't mean it's like a prison sentence. And
Right.
unfortunately, when the doctor hands it to them, what do they say? Well, this is a lifelong condition. We're going to manage it. If it gets worse, then we'll do this. And it's already kind of setting women up for failure, when they're hearing this.
Is it a lifelong diagnosis?
It Yeah, I mean, if you accept that, and if you like, I feel like from what I see and have talked to women about, sure, you can take medication. It seems like it doesn't work a lot of the times, or it might work
Mhm.
for a little bit, and then it stops working, or the side effects get to be too bad.
Mhm.
So yeah, it can maybe make them feel better, but like long term, is that going to work? And of course, this condition usually ends around, menopause. Like you can go into perimenopause, but typically at menopause, you kind of, I guess, lose it. But still, for women in their 20s, I mean, they're getting diagnosed even earlier now. Of course, teens to be till you're 50 living with this condition.
I had
Yeah. So.
fibroids. I had terrible
Mhm.
fibroids too in healthcare, and it's changing a lot. It's changing a lot now, and I don't want to call out any providers. However, they always took men's reproductive issues and sexual issues way more seriously than they did women. And now it's starting to change, but it's still got a long, long way to go.
Yeah, I actually just recorded a podcast with a guy today, and he was saying that his wife, he's had his own journey, weight loss and health journey, but he said he's seen that with his wife for years. And
Mm,
especially because like she kept saying something's wrong, something's different, something's off. She would go get some labs done. Well, they have a wide range, right?
yeah.
You want to look at the optimal range. They've probably expanded ranges on labs because
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, people can still tolerate this." But just because you're in that normal range, but you might be on the higher end or the lower end, depending on what lab work it is, but that doesn't mean you're still functioning optimally.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the piece there because, these women, sure, like your labs are fine, everything looks fine. If it gets worse or if this happens, come see me again. And so
Mhm.
they just keep getting brushed off. And that's PCOS. I mean, I've recently been connected with somebody, a fibromyalgia
Yeah.
coach and specialist. I think that another big one that's probably in that
Yeah.
category there.
Yeah.
There's, yeah, a lot of it that I think the women aren't studied enough. And even probably going back to med school, some of these conditions aren't talked about enough. But like you said, I think that's starting to change.
So when I remember growing up, one of my friends, and we were probably, I don't know, like 11, 12 years old at the time, just maybe,
Mhm.
starting to, go through our menstrual cycles and all that. But I remember she had a cyst on her ovaries when we were like 11, 12 years old, and they went in and did surgery. That is it avoidable? Is surgery avoidable? Because
Yeah,
this
I
is
mean,
starting younger and younger now, and women are starting their periods younger and younger now. Like I was
exactly.
10. It was
Yeah,
ridiculous. It was way too young. But,
yeah.
again, but is it avoidable?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so, but,
Yeah.
that kinda goes back uh, to childhood. I mean, right? I mean, there's so many things that can be linked to childhood, and whether that's, bigger traumas or just habits that were formed. It could go back to how the family's been eating for years and years. Gut
Mhm.
health, we could go down that rabbit hole because gut
Right.
health, you know there's so many more C-sections happening. Well, you're not getting the gut microbiome from your mother when you have a C-section, and that's
Interesting. I've
mhm,
never heard
yeah,
that before.
versus a vaginal birth, and you need that, you need all that good stuff there
Yeah.
to support your hormones, your mental health, all that stuff. And that's not happening either. So there's probably a lot of stuff. So yes, I would say it's avoidable, but it could even be generations that it could have been,
Yeah, it's
avoidable.
just coming. So
Yeah.
I'm 25-year-old Tracy, and I'm just get diagnosed with PCOS, and I'm struggling with it. What would be your first thing besides reading, your book, Healthy Beyond the Diagnosis?
Yeah.
That would be step 1, but what would you advise me?
Nervous system reset, I think would be the first step.
Okay.
So you can't heal a body that doesn't feel safe. You can't heal a body that thinks it's gotta, run from a tiger all the
Mhm.
time. So, first step with my clients is just some deep breaths.
Mm,
And a lot of times I associate that with food around meals. And so I encourage them to do it 2 to 3 times a day, obviously three, being optimal, but a couple times a day. And if they get really good at it, then they can do it throughout their day. But that way, first of all, they're bringing awareness to what they're eating as well. That's why I tie it to the meal. Now, if that doesn't work for them and they want to do it throughout the day, that's still a great reset. But just bringing awareness to what's going on because you have to calm the body, you have to calm the nervous system to even take the next steps. If you're in fight or flight and you're eating better, it's probably not gonna be as effective as when
mm,
your nervous system
yeah.
has said, "Okay, I'm in that rest and digest mode. I can actually process all the nutrients that you're giving me
Mhm.
now." So, yes, that's what I would say would be first step. Some deep breaths, minute at a time around meals is great. You can do, of course, like just simple inhales and exhales. You can do there's 4-7-8 breathing, 5-5-5,
Yeah.
anybody can look all that stuff up, but just some simple breathing exercises to start.
Yeah, and if people struggle with that, there's YouTube, you can get
There's
guided
apps.
with and
Exactly.
apps, and the sky's the
Yeah,
limit nowadays.
exactly.
So then let's touch on the nutrition part.
Yes.
Love this subject. So tell me what you like, what's your nutrition Bible?
Well, first of all, I talk about this in the book and I've talked about it on my podcast, adding over subtracting. And that's like a new concept for people because it's like, no, like I'm supposed to get rid of all the bad stuff, right? So,
Because we
like,
need carbs.
we do, we do.
Yeah.
Obviously in a good, in a
Yeah.
good form and in the right amount and all that.
Right.
But what I do with my clients is have them add in just a protein, a veggie, and a fruit,
Mhm.
preferably at every meal. But for some, we might have to start, you know, very slow and just focus on one meal. But basically, we want to flood the body with nutrients. If you keep feeding your body bad sugars and,
Right.
more caffeine, more, all the stuff, that's what your body's going to keep asking for because
Mhm.
it thinks that's what it needs. That's what it needs more of. So if you start flooding the body with more nutrients, it's going to eventually say, this is actually good for me, and you're going to start feeling good. And then you're
Mhm.
going to naturally want to kind of eliminate, some of the other stuff.
Mm.
So biggest thing is probably sugar, added sugars. Like I said, first step though, before you even start thinking about eliminating, focus on protein, veggie, and fruit.
Now
Um,
fruit, do you mean berries, like the berries and
Preferably, yes.
that, like the
Yeah.
fibers?
Yes, so preferably berries are great, organic is even better. And eating like seasonally too, like this time of year, naturally, there's not a whole lot of fruits growing, right? So I do some berries, I do some apples this time of year, but I've been trying to really avoid fruit in general this time of year where
Mhm.
if you think about it naturally in the summer, end of summer, getting into early fall, you have tons and tons of fruits available and that's when you really want to go heavy. But yes, berries I always say are the best way to go for some fiber, some antioxidants,
Mhm.
and other nutrients. And I tell people too to do it on an empty stomach because sometimes it can kind of ferment with other foods, with the
Mm.
sugars, and then you might
Okay.
have some stomach discomfort. So empty stomach is great as well. Plus, it kind of uses almost like a methadone because
Mm.
as you're replacing all the bad sugars with these good natural sugars, you can kind of support that process. Yeah. And then the big one, yes, being so focusing more on the protein and the veggies, big time
Mhm.
at every meal. And then next step would probably be removing the added sugars. That's probably the biggest thing
Yeah.
because once you do that, you eliminate a lot of stuff. Even
Are you trying to say that I'm not supposed to be eating ice cream every day?
everybody's different.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking. With that too, I think so I've added a lot of fiber to my diet. I even do a fiber powder I put in the morning. I take too, but I'm reading. I just did a urology audit, and I'm reading more. These providers are recommending that you eat 2 kiwis a day.
Those are the
'Cause of the fiber.
yeah.
Kiwis, I don't eat I don't dislike kiwis, and I have nothing against a kiwi. They're cute, but
Yeah.
I'm not it's not in my forefront, to eat. I'm usually the
Mhm.
berries, the apples, maybe a banana in
Mhm.
the morning, something like that, but have you heard that? Because I'm seeing this. I just did a huge audit, and they're recommending that for the fiber and stuff a lot.
Yeah, I don't know if I've heard like the 2 kiwis a day, but I mean, it makes
Yeah.
sense because yes, they are, you're gonna get some fiber from that. There is, a guy that I follow called the Medical Medium.
Oh, Mike Anthony?
Yeah.
Yes, I follow him too, I love him.
Yeah, and I know
Yeah.
he's mentioned, the importance of kiwi before too.
Oh, has
So,
he? Because I know he's the celery juice guy, but
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that would make sense.
Do
Sure.
you
Yeah.
juice? Do you do juicing?
Yeah, so I have a green juice that I love, apple, celery, cucumber, kale, spinach, ginger, and lime. I think that's yeah. And of course it's green, so some people are like, but it's so good. It's like it's got
You should sure give us
yeah,
the recipe.
yeah. So no, it's got like a good sweetness to it. So yeah, so I do try to start my day with that. I have done the celery juice before. I kind of go back and forth because I do travel a
Mhm.
bit with my husband, especially sometimes. So I feel like I get out of a routine with it.
Oh, yeah, of course. It's 80/20,
But
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But otherwise my go-to juice is the other one I mentioned.
Well, maybe if you can email me the recipe, I'll share it
Yeah,
with everybody because
yeah.
I think everybody's looking for a good juice recipe, and it's so hard to find because and they can be harsh on your system when you first start doing them, so you have to kinda ease into it.
Yes. That's what I've learned with the celery juice before too. I thought like I was fine starting off with like 8 ounces and I had to go down
Mhm,
to 4 because
mhm.
yeah, it can be a little rough sometimes.
So, incorporating the nutrition, so you said a protein, a vegetable, and a fruit with every meal, but incorporating that with fitness now. When I wake up in the morning, I don't eat anything before I go to the gym. I just drink water before I go to the gym. Is that bad?
I think, again, everybody's different with that one. If you
Okay,
feel
so it's
fine,
not a big deal.
no, no, if you feel fine as long as you're drinking water,
Yeah, oh yeah, I drink a
are
ton.
you trying to fast?
No, I
Like,
just I go so early. I don't even really I
yeah,
go at like 5 in the morning every day, so I
yeah.
just don't really, because some people are like, "No, you should eat," depending on who you talk to, "You should eat this before you go to the gym or have my shake before I go to the gym." I just don't have time. I need to get my workout
Mm.
done.
It depends probably on your goals a little bit too, if you're really trying to, like, build muscle, but then the important thing would probably be after more so than anything.
Yeah, that's what
If
I
you
do.
feel fine, yeah, if you feel fine going to the gym on an empty stomach, great. But then definitely when you get home, making sure that you
Mhm.
do get in some good protein,
Yeah,
some
of
good veggies
course.
and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
'Cause I think with if somebody's listening and they're like, "Okay, I've got PCOS, I'm gonna start working on my nervous system and calming that and breath work," and now Lindsay's saying, "Okay," because it can all be overwhelming. Now she's saying a fruit, a vegetable, and protein. Well, that's very doable. That's not
mhm.
overwhelming. That's very doable. But then, the gym. People, right? So where would you tell to people because you don't want people to go all in, then they get overwhelmed and they give up
No,
and then they
no.
can't
Yeah.
move and they don't want to ever want to go to the gym again because it's a big mean thing. So what would you recommend for that?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean that's a really good question. So my 90-day program, let's just say I had people when I did like a big launch of it going on 2 years ago. I had people from the gym that ended up doing it and I think they thought it was going to be more fitness.
Okay.
But by the end of it, they were actually very thankful that there was no fitness piece of that. Some had actually gained muscle by
Okay.
never like and they didn't work out the entire 90 days. We just focused on eliminating all the bad stuff, adding in all the good stuff, and they learned
Okay.
what served their body. So if you had to choose, yes, starting with some breathing, then focusing big time on nutrition, I wouldn't worry so much about getting to the gym. And the other piece of that too is maybe it's not the gym. Maybe it's just some gentle stretching for like
Mhm.
5, 10 minutes,
Or a
maybe
walk.
15. Exactly. A walk, depending on where you're at and the time of year.
Yeah.
But yes, maybe it's just moving your body. And also like if you're going for a walk, you don't because I even get in this mindset sometimes where I'm like, well, if I can't go for like 3 miles, then I can't go. Where it's like, okay, if I have 10 minutes, just getting outside and going for a very quick walk and some fresh air can serve your body so, so much more
Yeah.
than, sitting in front of
Mhm.
another screen or something. So, yes, it can be very overwhelming. And I always tell people you have to tackle like one thing at a time. Tackle the breathing, stick with that for like probably a couple weeks, like actually
Yeah.
make it part of your practice. Then start tackling some of the food things. And maybe you stick with the food stuff for 6 weeks, before you
Yeah.
feel like, okay, now I can feel better. Now I feel motivated. I have a little bit more energy. So now, sure, I can start adding in a little movement. And it's the same thing too. Like people will also ask, well, what exercises should I be doing? I tell them the ones that you will do. Sure, we can say there's benefits to strength training. You do need a little cardio, right? Yoga's great. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever you feel like. And of course, along my journey, I've met people, having the gym. I still loved yoga and I'm still going and punch a bag. But there's some people like, yoga is not my thing. They just wanted to punch a bag all day long. And then, of course, I've met the opposite that they're like yoga all day long and, they have no desire to go for a run or anything like
Mhm.
that. So,
Mhm.
whatever feels good for you is what, you should do. I wouldn't focus too much on the actual, like, exercise, focusing more on moving your body, but doing that later once you've kinda tackled a little bit more of the other nervous system reset, because you can also stress your body out more, if you're not truly ready for that,
Yeah.
then bringing in the wrong type of movement and stressing yourself out, thinking you have to start going to the gym 2, 3 times a week, that can just, set you off again and,
Yeah, and you want
undo everything.
I like that about easing into it though, because I think too, you were saying you couldn't figure out what the missing puzzle was, and it ended up being here was the missing piece of your puzzle.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what did you do to change that? What explain to me a little bit, like, you don't have to tell me like your ritual or whatever you do, but just some things that you did that worked and maybe some things you did that didn't work because it's a learning
Yeah,
curve for any of
it
these things, you
is.
know?
It is. Yeah. I mean, so for me personally, I will admit when I was first starting my journey, I didn't write any of this stuff down. But doing some thinking, up here, I started realizing what wasn't serving me and also kind of how things that I dealt with in the past were affecting me even now
Mhm,
that I had to deal with. One of the big things that again, I talk about it throughout the entire book really and with my clients is getting it out on paper and start to really think about why am I so I have them kind of journal basically or diary whatever you want to say. Again, I don't want it to be something that stresses people out more, but doing it for 3 days and then moving on unless they're really enjoying it, they can do it longer. But just taking a minute not to count calories and all that stuff. Jot down what you ate, doesn't have to be
mhm,
perfect. How did you feel when you first took the bite or even when you made the decision to take that
mhm,
bite? Take your
mhm,
first bite, couple bites in, right after, hours after, the next morning. How are you feeling? What's going on? Is your energy dropping? Did you know something with your skin happen? Because a lot of the times, especially because we do tend to eat a lot of the same foods a few days in a row, uh,
right,
we can start noticing some patterns there.
mm,
But then the other piece is the emotional
mhm,
piece. So, like for me, my mom used to love to bake, and she didn't really teach me how to cook, but we used to bake together all the
mhm,
time. And so I'm the same way. I love baking, but I think it's kind of because I tie that to just love, and happiness
and
from my
comfort,
mom. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And so doing some of that work too, is it you used to watch TV, sitting on the couch next to your dad, and you guys would share a bowl of popcorn. So is that something now you just mindlessly go to the couch at the end of the day with a bowl of popcorn. So just starting to kind of are there ties? Are there ties to certain
mhm,
things and how's that making you feel is another part of even before we get into nutrition is
right,
another part of what I do with my clients too. But I found that kind of is that missing piece a little bit too because they have some big aha moments when they start actually realizing and stopping, instead of mindlessly waking up, going right to the coffee machine or, having X, Y, and Z for breakfast and realizing
yeah,
that's why they're feeling so bad the rest of the day, whatever it is.
yeah.
They have some big wake up calls with all of that, and I think that's
I
like that was a big
I
missing
never
piece
thought
for
of
me.
linking nostalgia with food because when you think about it,
Mhm.
how we grow up, like our cultures, how we were raised, and like you said, the smell of coffee in the morning,
Yeah,
smell of bacon, sauce cooking on the stove or gravy,
exactly.
whatever part of Italy your family's from, whatever you
Mhm.
call it. I mean, yeah, that's very nostalgic and it's very
Mhm.
comforting. But
Mhm.
you really need to stop and think like, "Okay, what's my relationship with this, and do I really need this right now?
Exactly. Yeah.
Is it serving me to, warm and fuzzy, or is it
Mhm.
serving me, like, for my goals, my health goals?"
Exactly. And it doesn't mean you're gonna give it up forever because
Oh,
we
yeah.
don't wanna necessarily lose that nostalgia, right?
Yeah.
But maybe for a little bit, you need to take a step back from it, and then also, maybe it's just the awareness of it. So maybe it's something you were doing every single night. You're like, "Oh my gosh, like, I can actually break this pattern now." So maybe it turns into a once a week thing or every other night at first, depending on whatever it is, but
Right.
maybe you kinda give that up for a while and you realize how it's serving you, and then you can eventually, bring
Mhm.
some of that back as well because, yes, that is super hard to break up with, but the first step is just kind of that awareness,
The
of it all.
relationship with
Mhm.
why am I putting this in my mouth? What is it,
Yeah.
what does it mean? And I have tons of nostalgic now that we're talking about it. I have tons of nostalgic moments with food that I was
Yeah.
raised on with my family, and we still have those moments, and it's almost like our way of connecting.
Yeah, yeah. Food, I mean, that's the thing with food, right?
Yeah.
It connects a lot of people. The other thing is too, if you think about it, if you're watching a movie, a TV show, and you see a woman sitting on the floor, sitting on the couch, bawling her eyes out, eating a pint of ice cream, what's the first thing you think of that just happened?
Breakup.
Yeah, right. So it's some of those subtle like programming things that we we've experienced, we've seen on TV and all that stuff our
It's
entire lives.
romanticized,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and so we think when we go through a hard time that it's fine because they're doing it, so it's fine for us to sob into a a pint of ice cream. But again, once you kind of bring awareness to that and then also realize how it's not serving your body in the way that you want, I think that can be very powerful.
Yeah, that's good. I've never thought of it like that. I'm gonna write in my
Mhm.
journal about that tonight, actually.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you ready? Do you want to talk about your event that you're putting together? Or are you not
It
ready
actually
yet?
it just passed.
Oh, it happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, let's
Yeah.
talk
But
about it because
yeah,
how was it successful?
I would say it was successful.
Yeah,
So it's the second one that I've done. It's a collaboration event. And I mean, that's why I love doing stuff like this. I love the
I know.
podcast, because I'm meeting so many other amazing people. And so it was myself and five other speakers. This one was virtual, and the theme was the anti-resolution revolution. And so is around the theme of, not starting over every
Mhm.
single year, and basically everything we've been talking about, making it something more sustainable, making it a lifestyle, making those small changes, to compound to big results. And so, yeah, so I had uh, five other speakers. Like I said, I had somebody that talks about tapping. I had
Mhm.
another nurse and health coach similar to myself. She specializes in Hashimoto's. Somebody that does more of the movement side of things.
Mhm.
What else? A homeopath. Yeah, and she talks about homeopathic detox therapy, like peeling back all the layers from all the years of birth control and
Ah,
hormones and all the things. And then another one that I'm actually going to her yoga retreat in Costa Rica in April. I'm super excited for that.
wonderful. How
Yeah.
exciting.
So yeah, so it's been great. And then I mean, I got some great feedback from it. Like I said, this is the second one that I've done. This one was a
Okay.
recorded. It was recorded. The other one had been all live sessions, so
Mhm.
that was a little bit different. But I know we reached at least one person.
That's
That's the
then you
stuff
did your
that
job.
matters.
Yeah, that's how
Yeah,
I am. If
yeah,
I could just get one person, that's all.
yeah.
And then your podcast,
hmm
so it's called PCOS Unfiltered.
Correct.
And
Yes.
how often are you releasing episodes and what are your each episode like?
Yeah. So I do twice a week, on
Mhm.
Tuesdays and Fridays. Sometimes so I try to keep the episodes like 20 to 30 minutes at a time, just allowing somebody to, yeah, if they're going for a walk or driving in the car so they don't get too bogged down and 'cause I feel like there's so much good information from it all, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes they're like a two-parter with the same guest, but it's kind of evolved, I will say that a little bit because, I mean, I even have just, like, powerful stories of healing. Like, one guy that he's actually in India, and he had a brain tumor, and he had it removed, and he lost hearing on that one side of on one side and had paralysis on one side of his face, but just hearing his story and how he got through
Mhm.
that, I think that's super important, even, going back to what we were saying about women with PCOS. 'Cause I don't want them to get in that victim mindset, and I think they need to hear stories like that. It wasn't PCOS, but again, you can replace that with anything, you
Mhm.
can get through anything and how
Yeah.
his mindset played a role in that. And then, yes, I do have also some more practical episodes, like I just did a solo episode and talked about, what your hormones are doing in the winter and, how to kinda improvise and, like, foods you should be eating and maybe some movement you could be getting in the winter when it's cold and getting darker earlier and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't feel like yes, the title is PCOS, but I think no matter what the diagnosis, a lot of times they can listen, and even if they're listening and they're like, "Why is there a guy on here talking about"
Yeah, because he
it's
clearly doesn't have PCOS.
exactly. But I
But
think it's super important for people to hear those stories. Yeah,
it is because they might have a tool that resonates with them
that's
that, like you
exactly it.
said, you can apply that toward anything. And,
Exactly.
and it might, I think that's why we're doing these podcasts because we want to
Mhm.
provide all kinds of options out there for people and
Exactly.
with success stories behind them.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, because that's the other thing too, because I've lived the side of traditional healthcare, and now I see, the
Yeah.
other side, and I get to bridge that and kind of, use both of those. And I would encourage, anybody, sure, like go the traditional medicine route, but also know that there's so many other things out there to complement that, whether that's coaching like myself, or like I mentioned, somebody that does like, tapping. I've had an episode on human design, and kind of
Mm.
how, I don't know how familiar you are with that, but but yeah, but like how these things can all complement, what you're doing on the traditional side, and it might take some other things. I've even had an episode on feng shui and how
Mm.
the setup in your room, your office, like all
Yes.
these things can actually help you heal.
Yes.
Um, yeah, yeah,
Declutter.
yeah, exactly. There was
Yeah.
one thing she said to me about knives on the counter. Uh-huh. Yeah,
What?
like basically how that's like you should put your knives away.
Because I
I mean,
have a
because
butcher block with
everybody
knives.
does, right?
You're not
Yeah.
supposed to have them on the counter at all?
No, it's like bad.
Like,
Bad juju.
really?
Bad energy. Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never heard that.
Yeah. The
I
other big
just
one
bought a
was,
new one too.
yeah. The other big one was what's under your bed.
Oh, yeah, I don't
Y-
have anything under my bed.
Yeah. Like she gave the example of somebody that had important documents that weren't good documents, couldn't sleep for like a while, for years and years, and she figured out it was what was under her bed, and they got rid of the documents. And yeah.
Oh my gosh, I've
Yeah.
never thought of that
So
before.
yeah,
I'm gonna have to
exactly.
feng shui that about the knives because
Yes.
like, I never heard that, and
Yeah.
I love feng shui. Oh, wow, that's crazy, I've never
Yeah.
heard that's really
Yeah.
cool though
Yeah.
that you had that
Yeah.
on there.
But yeah, yeah. I mean that's like I said, that's my podcast. Like that's,
Yeah,
thinking about some of those other things that you never really thought about. I just want people to
right.
know what else is out there.
Yeah, 100%. Are you working on another event, or are you kinda resting right now, or
Yeah, I am. So it's still a collaboration event, but it's just with one person. Yeah, and she's actually over in Greece, and her and I met the same way you and I did.
Oh, that's
But her and I
awesome.
align in a lot of ways, and so we are planning a workshop on March 15th. That will
Mhm.
be at 12 p.m. Eastern time, and then we'll follow it up the following week also with a master class. So yeah, so stay tuned for that stuff.
And it'll be virtual?
It'll be virtual. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I was gonna say, if you're going to Greece, I'm
I
in.
know.
If you
I
need a
need you.
travel buddy, that's
Yeah.
awesome. And then show your book. I just want everybody to
Oh
see
yeah.
the cover of it. I love it. That's Healing the Diagnosis. And you can get that on Amazon.
On Amazon. Yep, it's available in paperback or on Kindle as well.
Yeah.
Working on Audible. Eventually I'll get to Audible, but right now paperback or
Are
Kindle.
you gonna do the reading for Audible
That's
or
my plan. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you got a
So
good voice for it.
it's gonna take a little bit. And I will say too, like some people might be intimidated because it looks a little thick, but there are a lot of references in the back. So don't get intimidated. It, it's still an easy read. And plus like they can go to whatever chapter if they feel like, if they want to
Skipping
start off
through
with
it.
something else. Yeah. Yeah.
Is it, did you self-publish?
Well, I used not necessarily, no. Like,
Oh,
like, they didn't help me with promotional stuff, but they did
right.
help me publish it on Amazon
Oh,
and do, like, the formatting for that.
nice. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
So we'll include the links and your website, your podcast, everything
Mhm,
in the show notes and everything. And I know we briefly talked, and we have a couple minutes left, but we briefly touched on hypnosis, which I
mhm,
just since you and I talked last time, I actually had my first
mhm.
hypnosis session a couple weeks ago. It was incredible. So we
Yeah.
talked about that a little bit. How does that incorporate with like your passion with all of this?
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to, like I said, the missing link, that
Mhm.
mindset piece. So, I'm not certified, but I work with somebody that is, and so he gave recordings to people that go through my program. And they just kind of help really solidify all the changes that are being made. So, you probably know this, but I'll still say it, but your subconscious doesn't sleep, right? So at
Right.
night, you go to sleep, but your subconscious is not sleeping. And so I tell my clients to turn it on. Ideally would be at bedtime. They can fall asleep to it. I have some that like don't think they should, but yes, you fall asleep to it. And so it's hitting that deeper level, it's hitting it's paired with all that other inner work, that deeper inner work that we're
Mhm.
doing along
Mhm.
the way. So I have one recording that kind of helps them as we start making the changes, and then the other one is to kind of really help solidify the changes. But again, I think that was the missing link because
Mhm.
going back to the programming like I talked about, that's a subconscious level type, programming that we need to fix. I had it done personally myself as well, and there was some stuff that I came up that I hadn't thought about in a while, I guess you want to say.
Yeah, that's
Um,
what happens, yeah.
yeah, yeah. But it's like a beautiful thing though, and I think you can agree with this too, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Because I think some people there might be like a little stigma around it, or some people might think back in the day when I feel like it was more prevalent on TV shows and you'd see somebody hypnotized and they're barking like a dog or whatever.
Yeah, that's
No,
not
that's not the case, right? I just remember like I was crying, but it wasn't a bad cry and it was just a beautiful cry. It was a beautiful release of
mhm.
things that I didn't even realize that I had been, holding for quite some time and how those were playing a role in things. Yeah. Yeah.
But
So
that's
if
what the
somebody
beauty of the hypnosis is for, like,
mm,
it's come up. I went in to my session, with I had one goal going into the session, and the complete opposite happened. So you really shouldn't set expectations because what your
yeah.
subconscious think wants you to know, it's gonna come out and what it thinks you need at that moment. It's not necessarily
Hmm.
what you think you need,
Yeah.
but it
I
really
know.
is an incredible experience. And
It
I did
is.
mine in person, but I
Yeah.
like how you have this part of your program that they can do it and do it while they're falling asleep because that's, when you can really get deep into it. It sounds like a nice introduction to it.
It is, yeah, and I definitely I tell people too, if they feel like they need something more, then I can definitely set them up with somebody that can do a
Reference.
regular yeah, full session with them. I mean, I've even had people, because you're still kind of what do I wanna say? Is that yeah, alpha waves, I guess, in the morning, like, when you're waking up and you're not fully you're
Yeah.
not fully awake. As long as you're not grabbing your phone, because that's gonna
Mm.
totally, like, break you from it. But if you first thing you do also is turn that on, it's kinda like a little meditation, you can also hit your subconscious that way as
Yeah.
well. But, yeah, I always tell people if they want, like, more to it, then, they can do a full session. But I've had great response from it, and I've had a few people that are very open to it, and I've had a few people that are like, "What are you doing to me?"
Well, because I
But
think it's fear driven. People,
exactly.
a whole unknown. I can tell
Yeah,
you from firsthand
yeah,
experience, it's an amazing
yeah.
experience, and you as well. And I'm actually can't wait to do my next
Mhm.
because
Yeah,
I want to see what else can happen. So I think
yeah,
don't be afraid of it because
exactly.
you're doing this for yourself and
Mhm.
to learn more about
Yeah.
who you are as a human.
Yeah, 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 it's kinda like seeing yourself going through the thing. I don't know.
And
It's
out of
yeah, it's
body
like
I'm
you
a out of body
yeah, taking a
experience
step
total.
back.
Thank you,
Thank
and
you.
welcome to the Trauma Rockstar fam. I'm
Thank
so
you.
excited
Thank
to
you for
have you
having
on.
me.
I know, it's been such an honor, and, I will definitely keep in touch with you. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll keep in touch for sure.
That's good. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Take care.
Have a good
Bye. You too.
night.
Bye. The content on this podcast revolves around personal life experiences and is meant to serve as a learning tool. I am not a certified therapist or medical expert. This podcast doesn't offer medical, psychological, or professional advice. If you're curious about your mental or physical well being, feel free to reach out to a licensed healthcare professional for assistance.